My mom always said, try and get a profession that is not just a job. And so I thought about being a bank manager. And my main reason for that is that I had the misguided view that the money that was in the bank actually belonged to the bank manager. And then I also thought of being an attorney, mainly because there was a TV series called Law and Order. No, not Law and Order, LA Law, yes, and Matlock. And I saw the attorneys in that series and I said I want to do what they were doing. So I think I always knew I wanted to be an attorney. I think what I didn't know was if it would have happened because of the journey that I went on to become an attorney at law. But deep down, I think I always knew I wanted to be one. The law school impacted me in ways that I don't think I truly appreciated until I started to practice as an attorney at law. There were several things that took place during that 2-year program, and some of it, now I know that it was to shape you, it was to get you thinking differently, and other parts of it was really about friendship and relationships that are now existing today because of our shared experience at the Norman Manley Law School, or even before that. But coming into the Norman Manley Law School, that is where the friendships got cemented. Dorcas White, Miss White, who we affectionately say, oh, Miss White is coming when we see her coming down the corridor. We were in a lecture and the time was up for the lecture. It's a 1-hour lecture. And she required that someone should speak up by asking for the class to be adjourned. And she was really teaching us that is what happens in the courtroom, where if you are before a judge and you need to take a bathroom break or you need to ask the judge to adjourn for lunch, that you speak up. You don't just let the matter go on and on and on. You speak up and you ask for an adjournment. And she was teaching us how to do that in the lectures. And there was one of my classmates, Ricardo Sancroft, who by the way is now a judge, I believe it's in Belize. He was always the one speaking up and making the adjournment. And one day, Ricardo didn't come to the lecture. And we were all sitting there. 1 hour had passed. The other lecturer was outside. I could tell she was waiting to see who was going to take the step in making the adjournment. Everybody was whispering. And all of a sudden, the fears and anxiety that I had of speaking up came. And I realized that if I don't open my mouth and say or ask for the adjournment, we're going to be in here for a while. And I decided to do so. And she turned around, looked very pleased, and the class adjourned. And in the passageway on the outside, she called me over and she said, "You have a strong voice, use it." That has never left me. It is when you feel fearful or anxious that you should speak up, you should say something, you should defend somebody else's right or your own. And I learned that at the law school. There are so many favorite memories. I recall sports day, and it was so much fun. I ended up being with a cheerleading squad, cheerleading our team. And what I remember was one of the other teams actually prepared a coffin, decorated it in the color of the other team that they wanted to go down. And when the team went down, they performed a burial service. When I think about the law school, I said, it's so good that we have other activities. It's not just all about the law. We do sports, we do silk, which many of you are familiar with. Every year there is a production, and it is a huge production. And you see your classmates become dancers and singers and actors, and you're saying, whoa, if this law thing don't work out, they can actually do this because they have so much talent. If I were to say for myself personally what I enjoyed, I would say I enjoyed the advocacy program we had, where we had to actually do our trial. And I did my option wasn't criminal, it was civil. And I remember preparing for that and I really enjoyed it. I was very nervous about it, but I really enjoyed the preparation time. I was chosen to do the cross-examination of the witnesses, and so I learned, very early. Mr. Davis was the one in charge of this, Mr. Norman Davis, and he was very dedicated to us in terms of getting us ready and prepared. There was a real judge who came, and we set up the lecture room as a real courtroom. And it was just something that, when I experienced that, it confirmed to me that I did want to be an attorney at law. And I think it was at that moment that I knew I would be a civil and commercial attorney at law, which is what I do now. I recall in my first couple months of the law school, maybe 2-3 months, feeling overwhelmed, feeling like there's nothing that you do that is right, thinking that it's impossible to learn so much material and information, the pressure of having all of these tutorials to attend and being ready for them, it just felt insurmountable sometimes. There was some unrest among the student population, and we felt like, nobody cared, and what is happening, and, we don't think this is really what we thought it would be. I recall something that Miss White said in a lecture, and that transformed and impacted my life. She was writing on the board, giving out the information. She taught us remedies, as you all know, she taught remedies. And she turned around suddenly and she said, "Do not resist the process." And the room went silent. Everybody went silent. And I recall taking a deep breath. Whatever did she mean by do not resist the process? The class ended, and a very close friend of mine, Micheele Williams, we had a conversation. We said, what did she mean? What she mean by that? What was she saying? And then we started to process what it could have meant. And the more we started to process it, is the more we realized that we were being processed at the Norman Manley Law School. And so what was happening was that everything we thought we knew about becoming a lawyer, who a lawyer was, or what it takes, and whether we were, qualified to be one, and who can speak better, and who knows more cases, and none of that mattered. What was happening was that the program was designed to change and to transform how we thought about the practice of law. And when you think about diamond and gold and everything that is precious and good, it has to be processed. Do not resist being processed. Anyone who is a member of the law school presently, or who has left, and you are receiving what is invaluable, you don't appreciate or understand it just yet. When you start practicing, when you are an attorney at law after 5 years, 10 years, 15 years, like some of us are, you will recognize how significant that period was in shaping you for your future.